Yeah, I've rarely seen a bike this gorgeous as the Triumph Scrambler 1200 XE, but it doesn't just want to be a beautiful scrambler, it also wants to be a properly capable scrambler, on-road and off-road, and that's exactly what we'll be looking at together in this motovlog. Right then, hello and welcome to another motovlog. We're going to be doing this more often here on our getaway in Spain, simply because we've got such lovely roads and a bit more time, so we can take you along for the ride as well. Back there is the next rival to the Triumph Scrambler 1200, the BMW R12G/S. There'll be a motovlog on that too, plus a full test and a comparison of the two. But for now, let's stick with the Triumph. As you can see, it's already a bit mucky. We've already had a bit of a play on this glorious gravel road. Maybe a bit too much of a play because we've already had a little oopsie. That brings us neatly to the first point of criticism. These handguards look very classy, but they've been milled out so heavily on the inside here that they haven't got the greatest, let's say, mechanical strength. This was actually a fairly harmless tip over while stationary. Yeah, the bike weighs 227 kilograms. Ready to ride, so it's not exactly light, but a handguard really ought to be able to take that. In my opinion, and my opinion as an enduro hooligan, is that a handguard needs to survive a few tip overs before it's allowed to break. That definitely wasn't the case here. Right, first let's switch into enduro mode. In Enduro Pro, both traction control and ABS are completely deactivated, and because I've got these very road-biased 90/10 tires from Metzeler on it, that's a bit too much for me because I hope you can hear that, but the engine sounds superb. This 1200cc parallel twin has proper shove as well. Without even touching the throttle, there's enough torque to pull away just like that, and on loose ground, the rear gets lively pretty quickly as a result. If you give it a bit here. It's also got an interesting power delivery because I'd say the first few millimeters of throttle rotation are very soft, so it doesn't stress you too much, but after that, the torque is let loose pretty quickly like now. It fires you forward or the rear steps out. And that really, even though we are in off-road mode and therefore also in the off-road mapping, which should be a bit softer, but it is, you really do need a sensitive throttle hand. It is a 1200 after all, not a beginner's bike. Still, I'm taking it a bit easier. Firstly, because of the tires, and secondly, because the bike costs well, between 16 and 18, and with a few accessories, 20,000 euros, depending on whether you're in Germany or Austria. And at the same time, as you can see, the handguards already have a crack in them. And I don't want to drag this beautiful tank into the equation as well, with a bigger crash maybe. The engine and the rest are pretty exposed too, really. It's styled in a more classic way, and because of that, there's a lack of all the crash and bodywork parts that, in the event of a spill, could throw themselves protectively between the ground and the bike. But never mind, let's forget for a moment what might happen and focus on what's happening right now. The standing position on the Scrambler 1200 is basically not bad. The bars come up high enough. We're briefly on a concrete section of this trail now. But the standing position isn't bad, although it's a bit cramped towards the front. The foot pegs are positioned fairly far forward, and that means with the bars mounted as standard like this, I haven't got that much room to move forward. If I'm attacking forwards here or maybe even uphill, it gets a bit tight. At the same time, I notice this recess from the very distinctive, rather extravagantly positioned exhaust on the side. And by the way, I can already feel its heat even now at not even 15 degrees here. So anyone wanting to head into the desert at 35 plus degrees will probably be roasting their calves a bit here, but I think that issue is well known on Triumph Scrambler model, and buyers are probably willing to put up with it. But apart from that, this cutout fits perfectly when I'm sat here and want to bring my feet in close to the bike with my legs, then it works well. But when I stand up, I'll try and show you, then this exhaust flares back out again towards the rear, which means really, especially when you try to compensate through your upper body by leaning your torso further towards the bars, for the fact that you haven't really got that much room at the knees or hips to move forward anymore, then I have to splay my legs a bit unnaturally back out because the tank and the body of the bike widen out. So it isn't exactly a perfect enduro and scrambler clothing, but more like a scrambler with a bit more suspension travel, a very potent motor, and tire sizes that allow you to fit proper knobblies and have some fun. But it is a compromise. You will have to rein it in here and there and work a bit harder because of the weight. because of the standing position. But in return, you're probably also the best looking one out on the trail, at least until the bike ends up scattered in pieces. Suspension, by the way, at the rear, twin shocks, fully adjustable Öhlins, and at the front from Showa. That's good kit. It works, it's predictable. I've already sent it over some slightly rougher stuff and nothing has bottomed out. Everything really under control, and it gives me the feeling that there's a lot more left in it from the chassis. We just need to get hold of a better rider, fit some proper tires, and chuck any reservations about looking after the bike straight out of the window. Then you could definitely do even more with it. But even as it is, it's enough to have fun. Like I said, I think the average Scrambler 1200 XE customer won't be using it to attack hill climbs. And for having a bit of fun on gravel, it's more than enough. Not just enough, but more than enough. Even here now on the rougher tarmac, the suspension really works beautifully smoothly. You get good comfort. So this is a bumpy stretch where we often test a chassis to see how good it really is. And here with the long 250 millimeters of suspension travel front and rear, I'm gliding over it quite nicely. It's only the bigger hits that make it worth standing up. A little teaser for the comparison with the R12 GS. When it comes to braking, there are differences. I think the brakes and the Brembo setup here are very good, very nicely easy to modulate, so I can also ease myself down over the rough bits nice and slowly. Easy to modulate and at the same time powerful enough on the tarmac as we're about to try. That's not the case with the R12 GS. A little tease there in case anyone wants to know which one's the better Scrambler, the one that really can do something off-road or the one that really impresses on the road. And now we're taking the little Scrambler out onto the road. Just quickly switch the mode to road. There. No, sport actually. Well, we can do that too. This parallel twin from the Brits is an absolute character motor. One of my favorite engines, I think. It's simply a combination of torque. The maximum torque of 110 Newton meters already comes in at 4,500 revs. It's the torque, it's simply the sound. You won't really hear that properly here because of how the microphone's mounted and being inside the helmet, but at the end we'll do a walk around and a little sound check, just the way it crackles at idle. Imagine what it's like when you're really on full throttle or just blipping it a bit like this. Yeah, it goes bap, 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 bap out the back there. It really is, I'd say, the engine is at least 50, if not 80% of the enjoyment of the Scrambler 1200 XE. There are other models with this engine as well, so it's not new, but then with this long suspension, with the upright ergonomics, the seating position that you've got, I really like the Scrambler enormously. Here on the tarmac too, it needs a bit of input so it doesn't just drop eagerly into lean. You have to use that wide handlebar and give it a little push on the inside to get it over. But once you've understood that, it's quite harmonious, predictable, and not too tippy either, which you often get with these narrow-tired bikes. Yeah, and even though for a 1200, the 90 horsepower it makes isn't exactly a huge amount, I think it's more than enough to have fun and to cruise along in a relaxed way too, because this engine copes so well with low revs as well. This isn't really the right road for cruising anyway, but that blip on the throttle, can you hear that? Wonderful sound, wonderful sound. Another bit of praise has to go to the display, especially compared with this LCT-FT hybrid thing that we now get on the 660 models and even on the 800 from Triumph now, and even on the other modern classics. And for me, to my taste, that's simply too modern. And if you already have to combine a modern display with a nice look, then I think something like this feels a bit more fitting for bikes that are this classy and expensive. We're getting towards the end of this lovely road. So maybe that brings us to a conclusion, because who do I see the Scrambler 1200 XE being interesting for? I'd say either you're simply a retro enthusiast and quite tall and say that's why you want to make use of this greater sense of space here. Or you say, yes, you want to go off-road, but soft off-road, gravel roads, that sort of thing. There, the high weight of the Scrambler 1200 doesn't matter as much. And the ergonomic limitations when standing up won't be quite so dramatic either. And at the same time, you're riding something far more stylish, better looking, and accompanied by a much better soundtrack than is usually the case with most modern and comparable adventure bikes. And I also see it, provided people have the budget, as a second or third bike, just a bit of sole therapy, long-legged sole therapy. If you've already got several bikes, maybe a sports bike, a proper tourer in the garage, because of course you do miss wind protection here. But if you say, I've already got that covered with other bikes, then the Scrambler 1200 XE is also a very interesting bike because it's pretty unique. The obvious R12G/S, I'd say, is a very similar and comparable machine. And after that, who else among the scramblers really means business off-road? I'd say pretty much nobody, and certainly nobody in this engine class. Yeah, and if you're perhaps wondering right now how we actually film this video, this motovlog, we've got a few little helpers for that. Insta360, here you can see it, basically the remote for the watch. That also gives you those cool telemetry data overlays you've just seen in the video. It's paired with my Insta360 Ace Pro 2, which I've got on the helmet, with an ND filter, always important, so it looks dynamic, even when I'm wobbling along at 20 kilometers per hour in a thoroughly undignified way. And this remote simply makes it easier for me to control the camera. It does the telemetry data. I can also change various settings with it. That's always handy, and it's honestly mad these days what this modern camera tech can do, especially with the Insta360 app as well, where you can very quickly and easily edit videos and footage like what we've shot here today and chuck it straight out. You don't need a desktop PC, an editor, and 3 hours anymore. 15 minutes on a smartphone is enough. I genuinely find it exciting what's possible nowadays. We stopped doing motovlogs for a while because they were a bit of a faff, and now it's all just, yeah, bang, bang, job done, and hopefully still a good video. Now we'll do a little walk around like I promised you. Yeah, I don't know, this slim shape, these retro elements, the exhaust, which might not be the most practical, but I think it's incredibly stylish and beautiful. It just really speaks to me. Now let's see whether it can win you over on sound as well. Let's give it a go and see if the mic picks anything up. Yeah, it ranges from an angry roar to that sticky crackle, that playful edge. And for me, it's one of the best standard production bikes, or one of the best standard sound experiences. But what do you reckon? Write in the comments and tell me what you think of the Scrambler 1200 XE. That was a bit of a first impression for everyone who just wants to dip a toe into our testing of the Triumph. All the other details and comparisons, as I said, will come later. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the motovlog. For now, I'll just say thanks for watching. Until the next motovlog, until the next video, take care, adios and bye. Us.